Hello, Internet. It's a Saturday morning, and what better thing to do on a weekend is to look at typewriters. This is the oldest one that I had, and I started getting into typewriters, I don't even know how many years ago. It was one of those things I was filling in when I was journaling. I was thinking, how about we type some of this stuff up? So I recall being at an antique mall and I saw a typewriter there. It was a portable typewriter, you know, the small ones in the case. I thought, well, I'll give it a shot. It wasn't too much money. So I brought it back and fortunately it worked. And I would sit at the desk and instead of handwritten entries, I would start typing them. And typing was always a struggle with me because, again, when you've got this kind of mobility in one hand, you're pretty much hunting and pecking. So that's what I just learned to adapt to. But I found that when you went from digital to handwritten journaling, you had to slow down in your thinking. Because you can make all kinds of mistakes in that digital world and easily correct them and back over them. When you're writing, not as easy. With these things, you've got to put serious thought in there before you hit that key, because once you hit that key, it's permanent. There's no delete key on this. So I journaled for quite a few months with the typewriter. Then I started looking around and just picking up typewriters whenever I happen to come across them. Right now I've got 5 or 6. I've got 5 or 6, and they all function except this one. This one, again, I said earlier it was the oldest. It weighs 30 pounds. I had to get 2 Harry Potter books and a towel to get this up high enough to where you could see it here on this video. But this is an Oliver number 5. They made like a number 3, a number 5, and a 9. I'm not sure what the difference was between those 3 versions. But this one was the number 5 that I saw. And what's unique about this, and it's the first thing you probably saw, were these bat wings up here. These typeface or type bar towers, I think is what they're called. They house the typing bars. And when you hit the keys, seems like we're only getting, there we go, there's one from the other side. But they go down, strike the platen, and bam, you've got your letter or your symbol. This is not working for whatever reason. It will not strike all the way down, so I'm sure there's some stuff up underneath there that definitely needs looking at. But I might find the man and have him give this one the once over. But this again was from around 1913, so over 100 years old, this typewriter. Before I leave this one, I believe I remember seeing a movie once where this specific typewriter was in the movie and somebody was there typing away, and I thought that was unique. I'll have to go and see if I can't figure out what that movie is. And if I find it, I might do a screenshot and tell you what the title of the movie is right after this. Here's the next typewriter that I have, the next oldest. I think that's what I'll do. I'll go by oldest to youngest. The Oliver was 1913. This one was 1921. And it's called, as you see down here, Corona. Now, before it was Corona, it was actually the Standard Typewriter Company. I knew I'd forget that. Standard Typewriter Company. And then in 1914, that name was changed to Corona. So this one was produced in 1921. My understanding is that the British war correspondents, now we're talking about World War I, they liked this because this corona had a feature that others didn't at the time. And could you imagine trying to carry something like this, you know, around? It's kind of bulky and cumbersome. So what happened is this carriage at the top that has the platen in it, there's hinges right here, and it folds down onto the keyboard. And now, as you see, it's completely, well, it's not big anymore. And it had a case, as does this one. And this was the case that came with it. It's broken. There's a piece gone up here at the top. But what made this case unique, and again, wouldn't that be easier to carry than trying to lug something like this around in some bag or whatever? But when you opened up the top, there's hinges on the back that just can hook on and you can take off. And then this now became the desk. You could put the typewriter down into this desk, and it had little metal items in here that kept it from sliding around once you put it in there. But then you could, you know, be sitting down and put this on your knees or put this on a stump or put it wherever. But the portability is what made this favored, my understanding is, with British war correspondents in the World War I. This one, like the Oliver, it's called a 3-bank, and all that means there's 3 rows of keys. Why didn't they just call it a 3-row? I believe it was about the 1940s is when they started making a 4-bank, or the 4 rows. And on the top row of the keys, there's letters, but then there's also numbers up at the top. And when they made that 4-bank typewriter, they said, we're just going to put 1 row and dedicate it just for the numbers. So that's when the number keys showed up, was after the 40s. Now this was the typewriter, this Corona. Now you might have heard Corona before, like Smith Corona. So this was back before Mr. and Smith and Mr. Corona got together. So, but this was the one, Jesse, you remember last year when I typed that letter to you? This is the one I used. And you were complaining about how you couldn't read it and I needed to get a new ribbon and, you know, all of that mess. Well, I've discovered the reason why. Now, if I put this little white piece of paper down behind that ribbon, all you see is black ribbon on that side. On this side, if I can get it in there, there we go. Look at that. You can see the white coming through on that ribbon. And what happened is there was a little slit, a little tear in the top of the ribbon. And every time you hit a key, these spools turn and advance the ribbon. Well, that ribbon wasn't advancing because of that slit inside there. So it was stuck in that one location. And every time you hit a key, you're just continuously pounding the hell out of that one spot in there. So yeah, that's why when you were having difficulty reading that letter last year, I blame the ribbon, okay? But I've got it now pulled over to where it's good to go. But so yeah, this is a nice little one. I keep this over there in the hutch on my desk. I fold it down so it'll slide back in there. All right, let me take this. I'll put it down on the table and get a piece of paper in it. Oh, before I put the paper in it, back here in the back, let me slide it in here. As you're typing along, this carriage is moving, and then it gets to that point to where you hear a ding. That's telling you you're getting to the edge of your margins, wherever you set the margins up. Back in the old days in school, when you had to type up a paper, the instructor always told you to have 1-inch margins on both sides. So you would come in here and see these little structures there and there. you would move those over to the inch mark from both ends. And as this carriage is moving, you see that this little device stays seated. It'll stay in its place. Let me do the speed up on this. But as soon as it hits that blocker right there, that margin definer, see again, we're not over to the blocker yet, but it dinged and it says you're getting close, so wrap up the word. And then once it gets to that blocker, it can't go any further. Okay, well, let's not put this down on the table now, and let's do some great typing. See, I knew I'd forget something else. Here, let me get a T out of the way. Let me show you something here. Let me pull this up. Okay, this ain't gonna work. All right, let me hold it up. All right, when you hit the keys, those type bars go up. Okay, we got a straight type bar. Get in. Now, if you look closely at the tops of those type bars up there on the striker, on the strikers right there, you see a symbol at the top, at the middle, and at the bottom. Okay, that's going to be important here in just a minute. Okay, now let me put this back down, turn this around, and I want you to take a look at something. There are two keys over here on the side. One says cap, one says fig, the one right above it. I can't get my finger right. Yeah, right there. Fig and cap. Fig is for figure, I'm guessing. But watch what happens to that platen, to this whole carriage up here. Watch what happens when I just hit a regular key. Okay, as I hit a key, nothing happens up here. It's just staying as it is. But if I hit that cap key, if I hit the cap key, I want you to watch what this does. See, look, see, got some space down there? Cap, regular, cap. Okay, what happens when I hit the fig key? A little bit higher. See, I can see my shirt under that platen. You couldn't see the shirt before. Cap, well, I guess I can't see the shirt. Fig. Okay, now, what's happening here is when you are just typing in lowercase letters, you're just going along and it's hitting that bottom character. That's, remember those three, that the top, middle, and bottom? When you're just going along here, you're hitting only that lower character because of the geometry involved. When you hit that cap lever, that raises this platen up to where the geometry is now different. And when that key comes up and strikes it, it's not striking it at that lower character anymore. It's striking it at that middle character. And then when you hit fig, the highest setting, you're striking, when it strikes, it's striking at that top character. That's the only one that's hitting it. So that's why you have the cap and the fig on these. I think it's like the shift key on older typewriters. Also, I discovered there's one key that had 3 symbols on it. Here, let me get this up here to you. It's the one on the very bottom, second from the end. Can I hold this? I don't know if 3 fingers can hold it, but right there, you've got the cent symbol, you've got the ampersand, and then you've got a, what was the other one? A comma. There's 3 things there. Everything else just has one, or not one, but 2 items. But what I discovered is if you just hit that without the fig or the cap key, you get the bottom symbol. If you hit the cap key, you get the ampersand. If you hit the shift key, it raises it up and gives you the cent symbol. So you can get 3 different symbols on one key right there, depending on how high up it goes. Yeah, there's something else I was going to say here. No, I can't think of it. All right, well, let's get this back down on the table now and do some fabulous typing. I can't do any typing until we talk about the paper holder. While I had the wood shop out there in the garage, I took some 1/4-inch maple and made this letter holder, paper, I just call it a paper holder, and it works like a champ. It's got those dovetails in there. All right, let me load that paper up. Here is a sheet that I always put behind the paper that I'm using, or that I want to type on. And as you can see, this thing has some divots in it. I mean, it's been hammered quite a bit, but I will put a black line at the top and the bottom. That way I know where to stop and where to stop. Where to start, where to stop, yeah. I'm having difficulty this morning. Okay, so I will put, see, there's the paper that I'm going to be typing on, but you can see back there in the background, can't you? Yeah, you can see that black line. So slide that rascal down in there. Let's see, can you see? Move it over here, because I'm going to be going at light speed over here with this typing skills. We're a little off. Let me straighten it up. There it is. Okay. Okay. I need to start off the great novel here. Cap. Dang. See, I already made a mistake. Not even 2 words in, I already made a mistake. I hit the wrong. Oh. Yeah, when you hit the cap key, then you get a capital letter. Okay, so I hit the key. Oh, let's ignore that. Let's start again.